Victorian Underbelly. Shocking truths behind the darkest mob musicals of the era in the dimly lit back rooms of Victorian London. A scandal lurked beneath the glittering facade of the music halls. This is a tale of mobsters, betrayal, and a secret that could shatter reputations if only someone dared speak it. The air was thick with anticipation as whispers of the city's underbelly spread like wildfire, each more electrifying than the last. What if the songs that brought joy to the masses were carved from the bones of the damned? What if every beautiful melody hid a narrative drenched in blood and corruption? Nights echoed with the haunting melodies that wafted through the smoky air, where the shadows of performers merged with the sinister depths of their dangerous patrons. In these crowded spaces, every laugh held a hint of terror, and every round of applause seemed to call forth restless spirits from the beyond. Hushed conversations buzzed about a secret society, known only as the chorus of shadows that orchestrated both the performances and deadly deals in the dark corners of the city. The more you watched, the more you felt the gnawing suspicion that this lively world was a front for something far more dangerous. Zoom in now, and you'll see a young woman, Madeline, trembling under the spotlight. With every note she sang, a tightness gripped her throat, a warning desperately pleading for release. Just a night earlier, she stumbled upon the truth. A ledger filled with names and prices exchanged for silence. It painted a grim picture of the very people she had admired from afar, now revealed as puppeteers in a vicious game. As her heart raced, frenetic thoughts swirled around her mind. Could she betray them? Could she risk everything to walk away? Or was she already too entangled? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Madeline stood there, the spotlight burning her skin like a guilty conscience. With every moment that passed, the gravity of her discovery added weight to her breaths. She could hear the raucous laughter of the crowd, but it felt distant, as if they were all part of a grand illusion, unaware of the darkness festering in their midst. Unbeknownst to them, the chorus of shadows was closing in. She felt it, an ice-cold chill creeping down her spine as the music surged and swelled around her. The fateful choice loomed before her. Would she flee from this twisted fate, or would she stand her ground and face the monstrous truth that had snared her? Somewhere in the shadows, eyes watched her with anticipation, and the line between hero and villain blurred, leaving Madeline teetering on the edge of chaos. What dark secrets would unravel next? Madeline's heart pounded like a drum, each beat drumming into the silence of her thoughts. She could feel the weight of the ledger buried deep in her pocket, a dangerous secret pressing against her thigh, as if it could explode out of her at any moment. The crowd remained blissfully ignorant, their laughter morphing into a sinister echo that slithered through the smoky air. With every passing second, she felt the noose of the chorus of shadows tighten around her as she sang. Her voice trembled, quaking under the pressure. The verses that had once felt like an extension of her soul now tasted bitter, entangled with treachery. The lights blurred, and she caught a glimpse of someone moving at the back of the hall, a tall figure, silhouetted against the strobe of the flickering lights. An uncanny familiarity tugged at her memory, and a pang of dread coiled in her gut. The stranger's gaze pinned her in place, a haunting intensity that pierced through the joyful facade of the audience. Madeline! A hiss cut through the commotion. It was Eliza, her closest friend and confidant. She rushed toward her, desperation staining her features. You have to get out of here. Now. Madeline's breath hitched. Why? What's happening? It's bad. They found out. The chorus. Eliza cast a wary glance around. We need to go. They're watching. The weight of the ledger felt heavier, as though it had transformed into a leaden anchor dragging her down. Every nerve in Madeline's body screamed at her to flee, yet her feet remained rooted. The thrill of performance battled with the terror of discovery. She could feel Eliza's panic like electricity surging between them. And just like that, the music stopped. A shuddering silence blanketed the room. Conversations halted, and the crowd turned, sensing the shift in energy. Madeline's heart raced anew as the murmur of uncertainty pulsed through the hall. In the silence, a voice broke through, smooth yet sharp as a knife. "Ladies and gentlemen, I assent it time we address a certain talent more closely." From the shadows stepped Vincent, the orchestrator of the chorus, his complexion pale, almost ghostly under the stage lights. A cruel smile curled his lips, and in his hand, he held the very ledger that Madeline had stumbled upon. The audience gasped as realization washed over them. "You see," Vincent continued, his voice laced with self-satisfaction, "our dear Madeline here has been privy to our little secrets, and we can't have loose ends now, can we?" Madeline's stomach dropped. The room felt like it was closing in, and the audience, once friends, now turned into executioners. Panic clawed its way up her throat. "Eliza, go!" she shouted, only for Eliza to grip her wrist tighter, unwilling to leave her side. "Stay close," Eliza snapped, fear knotting her voice. Vincent's attention turned to Eliza, his predatory gaze locking onto her. "Ah, and you've brought backup. How lovely." He stepped down from the shadows, moving closer to the stage, weaving between the tables like a vulture circling its prey. Madeline's instincts kicked in. She needed a plan, a way to escape this mess, but every option felt out of reach. The ledger of secrets was out there, exposed to enemies and watched by vultures waiting to swoop in. And suddenly, with a swift movement, Vincent gripped the edge of the stage and leaned in, his gaze piercing through her soul. "What will you do, Madeline? Will you choose the truth, or will you remain silent?" Madeline's vision narrowed, her pulse echoing in her ears as uncertainty danced around her. Everything hung in the balance: her life, Eliza's, and the dark, hideous truth of their world. The moment had come, but which choice would she make? Caught between dread and a desperate hope, she felt the cold grip of fear tighten around her heart. What had she done? What had she awakened? The clock was ticking, and soon she would have to decide. Madeline's mind raced as Vincent's piercing gaze seemed to strip away her defenses, exposing her. A part of her wanted to scream, to defy him in front of the crowd, but the weight of the ledger pressed down on her, a grim reminder of her precarious situation. Eliza's grip on her wrist tightened, and their eyes locked, a silent conveyance of fear and determination. "Madeline," Vincent purred, a predatory smile dancing on his lips. "How fascinating you must find it, standing here with the fate of your precious little world dangling in the balance. Do you not see?" He gestured theatrically, encompassing the gaping audience. "They crave the truth. Feed them, or descend into silence." Madeline's heart pounded louder in her chest. This was not just a performance. It was a reckoning. Hushed whispers cascaded through the hall. She could feel the anticipation, the need for revelation hanging thick in the air. But was she truly ready to reveal the darkest secret she had stumbled upon? "Do it," someone in the crowd shouted, the voice ringing with desperation, urging her to unveil the darkness lurking beneath the surface of their revelry. Her body trembled, caught in the crosshairs of an impossible decision. To speak meant exposing not only herself but every person entangled in the chorus's shadowed web. She could feel the ledger's promise of safety turning to ashes in her throat. But silence was a death sentence too, one that loomed larger with each heartbeat. Suddenly, she felt the ground shift beneath her, and the only thing grounding her was Eliza's presence. "Just tell the truth," Eliza whispered fiercely, almost inaudibly over the tension-thick air. "Whatever it is, I'm with you." Vincent laughed lightly, a sound that echoed through the gathering like ice. Ah, the loyalty of friends. So quaint. "But tell me, Eliza, would you stand beside her when the only choice is to plunge into the darkness? Can you bear the weight of her secret?" Uncertainty rippled through Madeline as she considered every soul watching her. Many were friends, yet how many could be trusted? She opened her mouth, but words lodged in her throat, choking her. The ledger in her pocket felt like a firebrand, igniting her insides. Before she could speak, Vincent waved the ledger like a banner. "Shall we? Let us make this a little more theatrical. Shall we?" He leaned forward again, his voice dropping conspiratorially. "All it takes is one word, one truth. Imagine the downfall of empires, the rise of new stories. Could you bear to know the kind of havoc you could wreak?" With a sudden motion, Vincent dropped the ledger to the stage floor, the sound of its fall resonating like a gunshot through the silence. "Checkmate, Madeline. Now choose." Madeline's breath hitched as the room held its collective breath. All eyes turned toward her, waiting for her verdict. The ledger lay like an open wound between them, an invitation to plunge headfirst into chaos or to retreat into the familiar, safe facade. Panic burst forth in mad waves. What secrets lay just beneath the surface? She needed time, a moment to breathe, to think, but the moment was slipping away. The crowd erupted into whispers, excitement breaking like a storm around her. Tell us the truth." They leaned in, hungry for whatever darkness she might reveal. "Madeline." Eliza's voice broke through the clamor, a lifeline amidst the chaos. "You can't. We need to silence." Vincent snapped, his authority slicing through the noise. "Let her speak, my dear underlings. It is time for the curtain to rise. Shall we witness her choice?" Madeline's pulse raced. The stage was set, eyes on her, the secret threatening to spill out. She had to decide, and fast. Would she risk it all? Then, in a fleeting instant, an idea flickered in her mind. What if she could buy just a little time? As she inhaled sharp breaths, she gripped Eliza's hand tightly and prepared to speak. But what would come out? Would she unleash the truth? Or would she weave a story that led them all away from the abyss? The choice was hers, but time was running out, and so were her options. Madeline's heart raced, each beat a warning bell echoing in her ears. She could feel Eliza's hand squeezing hers, urging her to hold on, to fight against the tide of uncertainty that threatened to pull her under. The weight of the ledger felt unbearable, as if it was imprinting its dark secrets into her skin. "Choose, Madeline." Vincent's taunting voice sliced through the air like a blade. He relished her hesitation, his eyes gleaming with a manic energy. The crowd's fervor swelled, each person leaning forward more intently, their faces alive with expectation. "Will you step into the light of truth, or shall you retreat into the shadows?" Desperation clawed at her. What lingering whispers of betrayal lay tangled in that fragile paper? Compromises? Lives lost? The mere thought of unleashing that chaos sent a shiver coursing down her spine. Would she bear the weight of that destruction? "Madeline, just say it." Eliza pressed, her voice tight with urgency. "Tell them the truth. It's the only way." Madeline's pulse quickened at the idea, but doubt gnawed at her, bitter and real. Would telling the truth protect her? Or would it signal the end of everything she cherished? The audience buzzed with discontent, each moment of silence amplifying their hunger. She began, her voice barely a whisper, lost amidst the tumult. Then, in a surge of determination, she drew in a breath, her voice rising as she found a fragile foothold in her mind. "What if I said you're all part of this?" Her words hung in the air, sharp and electric, causing the assembled crowd to roil with surprise. Vincent's amusement faltered, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "Interesting tactic, little one. But what weight does that claim carry without evidence?" Evidence? A reckless idea blossomed in her mind, wild and chaotic. "What if I told you this ledger holds not just secrets but names? Names of those who conspired, who built their crowns on the backs of others." Gasps rippled through the crowd, uncertainty mingling with excitement. Eliza's grip tightened, but something flickered in Madeline's chest, a spark of rebellion. She had their attention now, and the storm was building. "Perhaps to choose silence is to aid the very corruption I speak of," she continued, emboldened. "What power do you have if you do not demand justice? Stand in shadows, no more demand the truth." A wave of murmurs crashed over the room. A woman in the front clutched her chest, her eyes wide. Is that true? Do we really live in such greed? Vincent faltered, regaining composure too slowly. You think you can rouse them? A pretty tale, one tea, maybe I can't, Madeline interrupted, the adrenaline pumping through her veins. But you can't silence what doesn't want to be silenced any longer. You can't keep the light from seeping in. Now the crowd was a tempest, voices rising in discord. It was all spinning out of control. The stakes piled higher than she'd ever imagined. Madeline held the ledger in sight, its secrets a beacon, flickering like a flame in the storm. Madeline, Eliza exclaimed, urgency transforming her voice. What are you saying? This could end everything. Then let it, she proclaimed, the words pouring out in defiance. Let it end if the truth means we can create something anew. The tension in the room reached a breaking point, a claustrophobic pressure squeezing them all. What would happen when the truth came crashing down? Where would it leave them? It felt like standing on the precipice of a cliff, looking down at the depths below. A leap of faith necessary but perilous. Vincent's desperate grin returned, a predatory hunger now tinged with unease. You may unleash chaos, Madeline, but know this. The truth can cut both ways. Can you handle what it reveals? Madeline took a step back, uncertainty creeping in again. This was not the moment of reckoning she had envisioned. Her resolve faltered for the briefest of seconds, but the roaring crowd urged her on a wrestling within her very soul. Will you make the leap? Vincent challenged, the rhythm of his voice conspiratorial, darkly tempting. Madeline's breath hitched in her throat. Could she? Would the truth set them free, or would it set fire to their lives? It was a dangerous edge, but she teetered closer with each heartbeat. As the audience waited with bated breath, she opened her mouth again. What would she say next? Would she shatter the silence with truth, or would her words plunge them all into deeper darkness? The answer hung in the air like a spark, just waiting for the right moment to ignite. Madeline's heart thundered in her chest, the hush of the crowd amplifying the fear that coiled in her gut. What if she unleashed a fury that couldn't be calmed? She thought of all the lives intertwined within the ledger, her own tangled in lies and secrets. With all eyes fixed on her, she took a step forward. I choose truth, she shouted, her voice breaking the silence like glass shattering on concrete. The weight of her declaration felt liberating yet terrifying, every word hanging in the air like the edge of a knife. The audience gasped as if startled awake. The tension transformed into a pulsing energy, moving through faces that wore a mixture of disbelief and intrigue. You want to hear the names? The betrayals? She cried, daring the weight of their gaze. You've been blind to the rot beneath the surface while you've danced around the flames. Vincent's smile twisted into something sinister, the thrill of the moment bringing a dark glow to his eyes. And what will you do when those flames engulf you, Madeline? What could you possibly reveal that could shield you from the consequences? Maybe that's just it. She shot back, her voice strong, despite the trembling of her hands. Maybe facing the fire is my only chance to live. The audience pulsed, a rolling wave of energy responding to her conviction. People exchanged glances, some nodding in agreement, others caught in fear. What if the truth threw them all into chaos? A whisper ran through the crowd, half excitement, half dread. Eliza stepped closer, a fierce fire igniting in her eyes. Then let us do it together. They deserve to know. We deserve to fight. Madeline felt gratitude flowing through her. Eliza was her anchor amidst the storm. Their shared determination was a balm against the rising anxiety, yet that unease nested deeper in Madeline's chest. She couldn't ignore the warning bells, and the thought of betrayal, the very thing they sought to expose, had become painfully personal. The ledger in her hands felt alive, its secrets ready to spring like a coiled serpent. She turned to the crowd, her palms clammy as she opened the book, revealing meticulously etched names and damning accounts, each item laced with pain. The murmurs grew menacing, shadows deepening across their faces. Look here, she cried, flipping through pages that seemed destined to ignite a revolution. This ledger doesn't just hold names but the power to topple the throne of deception. The crowd leaned in, suspended in a moment of collective breath. Then came a lone voice from the back, steady, sharp, and familiar. "But what makes you the hero, Madeline?" It was Sebastian, the enforcer with eyes like cold steel. "How do we know you aren't just seeking vengeance?" Her breath caught. She had always known he was a pragmatist, but his challenge clawed at her heart. Would he expose her fragile position? Would the crowd see her as a traitor rather than a liberator? "I might be no hero," she began, struggling to keep her voice steady, "but I am a part of all of you, and I cannot let fear rule us any longer. We deserve a chance to fight back." Gasps rippled through the crowd, but uncertainty soon settled in. People pulling away, their hope crumbling. The fragile thread binding them started to unravel, her heart racing as their eyes flickered between trust and doubt. Vincent stepped forward, a wolf among sheep. "You see, it was always this way. A leap of faith requires something more than courage. What happens when you realize the truth you seek may destroy everything you love?" Madeline's chest tightened. What if it did unravel everything? She had always fought for her place, but now that place felt like a tether and anchor in the storm, now being cut loose. She glanced at Eliza, seeking strength in her friend's unwavering gaze. "If the truth leads to chaos, then let chaos rule. But we have to choose together." The room held its breath as those final words echoed, uncertain, trembling. Would they stand with her, or would they shrink back into the shadows? Madeline felt a swell of bravery mingled with fear, recognition dawning within her. It was time to shine a spotlight on Rot. But did she have the power to face the inevitable fallout? As the crowd began to whisper among themselves, a crack formed in the facade of silence. Would rebellion ignite, or would fear extinguish the fire altogether? The answer hung thick in the air, the collective heartbeat drumming with the unspoken question. Would Madeline be their beacon, or their downfall? Madeline's feet felt rooted to the ground, her heartbeat echoing in her ears, as the crowd's murmurs swelled like turbulent waves crashing against a lonely shoreline. Doubt swirled around her words and faces jumbled in a haze of uncertainty. Where had her brave declaration taken her? "Madeline," Eliza's voice cut through the chaos. "You have to tell them. We have nothing without the truth." She tried to focus, forcing herself to meet the gazes of those who had once called her friend. But the flickering doubt in their eyes felt like a gust of cold wind against her resolve. How could she lead them into a storm when she felt so adrift herself? Sebastian's chilling gaze cut through the dim light, still hovering at the edge of the crowd. "You claim unity," he challenged. "But aren't you afraid of breaking apart? If you reveal these truths, how many will regret their choice? How many will wish they stayed silent?" Madeline took a deep breath, attempting to steady her shaking hands. "We have lived in shadows for too long. Each betrayal in this ledger brings us closer to freedom." But even as those words left her lips, doubt whispered back. Was freedom worth the price of exposing buried sins? Would the revelations cast them all into an abyss too dark to escape? Suddenly, Vincent laughed. The sound was menacing, pulling the crowd's attention to him like moths attracted to a flame. What a dazzling show we're witnessing. A confused girl trying to rally the lost and broken. But look around, Madeline. Your charisma is dwindling. This isn't a fairy tale, it's a nightmare waiting to unfold. The crowd shifted uneasily. Murmurs turned into gasps. Madeline's pulse raced. She searched for anything that would ignite a spark of courage in these faces once filled with trust. "This is about all of us." Her voice rang out, trembling yet fierce. "We can no longer ignore the atrocities hidden in the shadows. If we don't speak now, we might be silenced forever." Eliza stepped forward, eyes glimmering with determination. "The truth is strength. Stand with her. Stand for all of us." Some nodded, others looked down. The tension was palpable, a tightrope straining under the weight of uncertainty. But then a whisper began to ripple through the audience. It caught like wildfire, growing louder with every heartbeat until it exploded into a roar. Show us what they've done." Madeline's heart soared, fear intertwining with hope. Maybe they could take this leap together. She fumbled to turn the pages of the ledger, revealing names tied to hidden crimes that made the crowd gasp, a chorus of anguished realizations. But then the laughter returned cold, mocking. But can you handle the truth, Madeline? You might dig up something even darker than you expect. Vincent's eyes glinted with malicious glee. What could he know? As she scanned the pages, a tangible chill slithered down her spine. Names felt alive now, each one burdened with dark stories she had no idea could be connected to her life. Past echoes danced around her, taunting, waiting. Eliza, she muttered, a tremor in her voice. What if he's right? What if the truth isn't worth the scars it could reveal? The crowd stilled, breaths held captive by the gravity of her question. After a long moment, Eliza squeezed her hand. It's worth it if it brings us freedom, Madeline. Don't back down now. Before she could reaffirm her resolve, a sudden crash echoed from the perimeter of the gathering. All heads jerked towards the noise. Shadows stirred, flickering dangerously near, an approach that felt like impending doom. Madeline's chest tightened. Was it a friend or foe? Would they come to aid them or silence them for good? The air thickened with tension, and she could feel the electric charge pulsating through the crowd. Something wicked was lurking just beyond the dim lights, a darkness that felt too close for comfort. As she stood at that precipice of truth and chaos, one final thought struck her. What if, in choosing to expose the darkness, she had awakened a power more sinister than she could possibly imagine? And there it was, will they stand with her? Or will fear shatter everything she held dear? Madeline's heart raced as the shadowy figure stepped into the flickering light. It was a man, tall and cloaked, with an air of authority that rippled through the crowd. The moment he emerged, fear wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. Devilish work. This, he sneered, his voice sharp and filled with a wild confidence. The murmurs that had begun to swell faded into an uneasy silence, every eye drawn to him like iron filings to a magnet. Do you really think shouting lies will make you heroes? The truth is a slippery serpent, girl. You've opened the cage and now it will strike. Madeline's breath hitched in her throat. Who are you? She demanded, trying to mask the trepidation in her voice. The harbinger of your doom, he replied, stepping closer, the details of his face sharpening in the dull light. His eyes glimmered with something dark and predatory. I come not to fight, but to warn. Unleashing these secrets will bring about a reckoning. You're playing with fire. Eliza squeezed Madeline's hand tighter. What do you mean? She shot back. The people deserve to know. Knowing can bind you tighter than ignorance ever could, he warned, his gaze darting across the crowd. You think revealing the hidden sins of the past will set you free. But what if it opens a door to darkness? The sins aren't just in that ledger, they are alive, festering, waiting for this moment. Vincent chuckled from the shadows, leaning against a post with an air of mockery. This isn't a fairy tale, Madeline. It's a broken night, and you're the one holding the lantern. Madeline's stomach twisted in knots. The crowd of neighbors, friends, even those she had barely spoken to, seemed frozen in this tense standoff between ambition and dread. They were all hanging on her next words. I won't shy away from the truth, she declared, though doubt gnawed at her, threatening to unravel her resolve. We owe it to ourselves. Do it then, the cloaked stranger hissed, his smile lurking like a shadow behind his words. But don't expect sympathy when the tides turn against you. The darkness will rise, and the blood will drown the innocent. Whispers of unease rippled through the crowd, and Madeline's heart plummeted. What was she setting in motion? Enough, she shouted, desperation fueling her voice. We have a choice, suffering in silence or facing the darkness together. I choose the latter. Are you with me? The crowd hesitated, indecision palpable. But then a soft voice emerged from the back. I stand with you, Madeline. Another echoed her resolve, then another. One by one, they began to step forward, bolstered by her courage. Madeline's heart swelled. They were ready to fight, to expose the truth. But then the ground shook beneath them. A low rumble echoed in the night. The cloaked man's demeanor shifted, a gleeful madness dancing in his eyes. You've summoned it, he whispered, almost hungrily. Watch as it rises. Suddenly, a figure stumbled into the circle. An older man covered in dirt, breathless and terrified. His eyes were wide, reflecting fear that seemed primal. They're coming. We have to hide. Confusion gripped Madeline, her stomach dropped. Who's coming? Before he could answer, shadows surged from the periphery, merging into the darkness like a crushing tide. Madeline's throat felt dry. Dread coiled around her heart. Was she truly ready to face the monsters creeping from the shadows? The truth seemed to waver, flickering between herself and an even larger threat. As the swarm of figures loomed larger, a chilling thought swept over her. Would the truth be enough to save them all, or had she knowingly walked into the mouth of a nightmare? Chaos erupted in the crowd, fear morphing into panic, leaving Madeline teetering on the brink of despair. Could she lead her people right into the jaws of an epic calamity? The darkness surged closer, relentless and hungry. Would she find the strength to confront it, or had she opened a door that could never be closed again? Madeline's mind raced as she glimpsed the figures advancing from the shadows, their forms undulating like a dark wave about to crash over them. Panic swept through the crowd, a living thing fueled by fear, and she felt every terrified heartbeat resonate in her chest. "Eliza!" she cried, her voice barely breaking through the noise. But her friend was already swept into the throng, desperately trying to keep others calm. The older man, still panting, grabbed Madeline's arm, his grip rough and unyielding. "We have to go now," he urged, his eyes darting around as if searching for a way out. "They'll come for anyone who stands against them." Madeline pulled free, shaking her head. "No, we can't run. We need to face this together." Her heart hammered against her ribs, every word a strained promise. But doubt gnawed at her, unsettling her resolve. The cloaked figure stepped back, the chaos surging around him almost like a spectator's thrill. "Look at them." He laughed, an insane glint in his eyes. "Do you hear that? They're frightened just like you should be. But it's too late now." The wind howled, whipping through the gathering. Shadows grew thick and dark, swallowing the lantern light. Whispers filled the air, voices drifting from everywhere and nowhere. They spoke of pain, sins long buried that had come crawling back, eager for blood. "Madeline!" Eliza's cry broke through the veil of terror. She emerged, pulling a handful of villagers along, their faces pale but determined. "We're not leaving you." The other villagers, emboldened by Eliza's rallying cry, began to gather closer. They formed a circle around Madeline, their bodies trembling but spirits ignited. "What do we do?" One woman gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "What can we possibly do against them?" Madeline turned, glancing at the cloaked man, who watched with morbid curiosity. She drew in a shaky breath, an idea sparking within her. "If the darkness is real, then we must shine a light on it. We have to confront the truth." "Yes," Eliza echoed, raising her voice so it rang clear above the mounting dread. "We have the ledger. We can expose everything." The older man snorted, disbelief painting his features. "You really think that will work? They've got power, and they'll crush you like a bug. The truth is our power. It's all we have." Madeline shouted back, her heart racing at the challenges leaping from her mouth. "Every shadow can be lit. We just need to hold on to what's right." As Madeline spoke, the air around them shifted, a wave of urgency breaking upon the people standing shoulder to shoulder. Maybe it was the encouragement of Eliza's steady presence or the sheer will to survive that ignited their courage. One by one, hands gripped torches and lanterns, flickering flames springing to life amid the creeping dark. But just as they ignited their lights, the shadows drew nearer, a tether of cold despair wrapping tighter around them. The ground trembled beneath the intensity of their choices. The cloaked figure's smile faded into a grimace, revealing an edge of foreboding. "You think fire will scare what's creeping from the abyss? Foolishness. The darkness hungers for the brave, and hunger is never sated." Before Madeline could respond, the air grew thick with an unnatural chill, ensnaring them in an icy grip. A thunderous sound more than just a rumble began to resonate through the crowd, drowning out her thoughts. The ground beneath them bucked violently. A massive crack split the earth open, sending waves of dirt and debris flying into the air. "Run!" she screamed, her voice swallowed by the rumble. But as the terrified masses surged backward, Madeline remained rooted, her heart pounding in her chest. The shadows twisted into shapes writhing, clawing, whispering things she couldn't comprehend. Each movement felt like a prelude to a truth left unsaid. Could the light truly confront the darkness lurking in the depths? Would they find what they sought? Or was this only the start of something worse? The tug of uncertainty weighed heavily on her, and deep inside, she knew the worst nightmare was only just beginning. Madeline felt the ground convulse beneath her, a violent reminder of the impending chaos threatening to swallow them whole. The crack in the earth widened, exhaling a gust of icy air that stole her breath. Time slowed, every second stretching out like an arrow pulled taut. Eliza's face was a mask of fear, her eyes darting from Madeline to the looming shadows, searching for clarity. "Stand firm," Madeline shouted, her voice strained but resolute. Her own heart raced. Was it bravery or sheer desperation fueling her boldness? She didn't know, but as the shadows slithered nearer, she understood that retreating would only seal their fate. The cloaked figure laughed again, the sound grating against the backdrop of panic. "You think a flicker of flame will shield you from oblivion?" He stretched out an arm, and the shadows writhed, eager to obey his command. "No!" Madeline yelled, a sudden surge of resolve pushing her to step forward. This time, the fear was a fierce fire igniting within her, not a weight dragging her down. "Together, we have to hold the light." The villagers rallied, inspired by Madeline's fierce urgency. They raised their torches higher as the incoming darkness pressed on. Each flickering flame danced defiantly against the encroaching shadows, creating a fragile barrier. But would it be enough? But the whispers grew louder, murmuring secrets and taunts. "You cannot outrun your past," a voice hissed, coiling around her like a serpent. Memories clawed at her mind, flashes of the ledger, truths long kept hidden. What would it uncover if they dared to bring it forth? Suddenly, the ground shuddered again, a monstrous cracking sound echoing through the air. A fissure split the earth before Madeline's feet, and she stumbled back. In that split second, she glimpsed a grotesque figure rising from the chasm, a haunting visage decorated with the remnants of the town's buried sins. "Behold!" the cloaked man bellowed, reveling in their horror. "The specter of what you fear most." Madeline's breath caught in her throat. The apparition was a wretched fusion of faces she recognized, villagers lost to time, vengeance etched in their hollow eyes. "This is the price of your silence," it howled, its anguished voice carrying the weight of ages. Eliza clutched Madeline's arm, her nails digging into her skin. "We've got to do something. This can't be the end." Panic lurked in her voice as she surveyed the chilling scene. "Believe, Eliza," Madeline shouted over the cacophony, her voice trembling but fierce. "If our light is strong enough, we can banish them back." Fueled by desperation, one villager stepped forward, torch raised high. "We want to go back into the shadows," he declared, his voice cutting through the storm of fear. Others joined him, shouting defiance as they held their flames higher. Uniting as one, the figure in the chasm faltered, uncertainty creeping over its twisted form as if the combined light began to erode its dark essence. But the cloaked man scoffed, a twisted smile spreading across his lips. "You think mere flames will hold them at bay? You have awakened what should remain undisturbed." A wave of cold swept over them as if the very shadows recoiled from their light. Yet the flickers of hope glinted in the villagers' eyes, the light pushing back against the darkness slowly. But just when it seemed victory was within reach, another tremor shook the ground violently. The crack split wider, threatening to engulf everything in its abyss. "Madeline!" Eliza's scream rang in her ears, the desperation pulling her from the brink of triumph. "What do we do?" In that moment, clarity shone through the chaos. They needed more than light, they needed truth, unity, and a willingness to confront the past. Madeline's eyes narrowed with newfound determination. We pull together. We do it now. And as she stepped toward the crack, she felt the weight of the ledger in her pocket, a heavy reminder of their collective silence. They had one chance to wield its truth and illuminate the darkness that had clung to them for far too long. But would facing the demons of their past deliver deliverance or doom? The shadows slithered closer, hungry, as time dwindled. The moment for action was upon them. The question lingered, were they ready to sacrifice everything for the light? Madeline's heart raced as she gathered her strength, anchoring herself in the swirling chaos around her. She could feel the energy radiating from the villagers, a mixture of fear and fierce determination. Each flickering flame stood as a testament to their willingness to confront the looming shadows. But it wasn't just light they needed, it was unity. "Listen to me!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the tumult, a rallying cry amidst the storm. This isn't just about facing down darkness. It's about reclaiming our stories, the ones we've buried in shame. The truth will bind us together, not tear us apart. Around her, faces shifted, glimpses of recognition sparking in their eyes. They were more than just a crowd. They were a community, woven together by shared histories, trials, and hopes. Madeline took a deep breath, the icy air filling her lungs and steadying her resolve. Together, we can shatter their hold over us. We've faced enough betrayal, enough silence. Let us turn that pain into power. The villagers echoed her resolve, voices rising, fortifying one another as they raised their torches even higher. The cloaked figure scowled, eyes narrowing. "You think mere words can save you? The shadows are hungry, and they'll strike hard for your presumptions." His voice shook with mockery, a glint of madness flickering behind dark eyes. As the chilling air thickened, Madeline felt a familiar tingle of reckless courage surge within her. She could sense the spirits of those lost, the burdens they carried. We are not just lighting torches. We are igniting the truth. The shimmering light around her began to pulse with intensity, pushing against the encroaching darkness creeping from the chasm. Faces of the past emerged from the depths, flickering like faint memories, tainted by shadows of regret. Each tormented visage seemed to plead for recognition, coaxing the bitterness that had kept them shackled to their secrets. Eliza stepped forward, her faithful spirit burning bright. "Madeline's right. We can't do this alone, but we can do it together. We're stronger than the shadows. Let the light of truth shine." The villagers roared in agreement, their collective will igniting the torches as they thrust them forward, creating a barrier of defiance against the dark. The shadows recoiled, visibly shaken by the burgeoning determination. The chilling visage faded momentarily, as if the truth held enough power to hold the shadows at bay. Madeline felt the warmth of the flames blending with her own pulse, a shocking clarity coursing through her veins. "Let us reveal what is hidden," she cried, drawing the ledger from her pocket, its worn edges filled with the weight of buried secrets. "Hold onto your light. I will read the names that is our strength. This is the moment." As she turned to the crowd, eager hands reached for her, encouraging her to begin. "I refuse to let this ledger bind us. It is a mirror that reflects our pain and our resolve to rise above it." And with trembling hands, she opened the ledger to the first page. The names flooded over her. The history binding them together surged forth. "Listen," and she began to read. Eyes widened, gasps escaped lips, but then something remarkable began to happen. Those names weren't just vestments of condemnation. They were calls for solidarity. History united in a chorus, each name illuminating not just betrayal but shared struggles, heartaches overcome, and alliances forged in adversity. With each word she spoke, the flames surrounded them like a fortification, pulsating with life, warmth, and ethos, melding the audience into an unbreakable bond. The specter recoiled, howling in agony as the light pushed back, scattering fragments of dark and despair to the corners of the earth. Vincent staggered back, momentarily struck, silent, unfamiliar fear flaring to life in his eyes as their resolve solidified into an unyielding wall. "Silence!" he shouted, but it was too late. The truth poured forth, resonating louder, stronger than any shadow that dared encroach. Madeline held firm, voice echoing. This is not the end but a beginning. She faced the crowd, passion blazing within her. We claim our stories. We claim our power. And we do it together. With a final surge of strength, the last name left her lips like a clarion call, and the air cleared. The shadows writhed, but the light erupted, a brilliant force radiating like a sunrise over the horizon. Everything brightened. Vincent's figure twisted grotesquely, and with a deafening roar, he was sucked back into the chasm, unable to withstand the collective power of their truth. The fissure moaned and sealed shut, the ground quaking, the shadows dissolving like a fleeting nightmare. Together, Eliza cried, raising her torch high above her head, its flame unwavering. Other villagers followed suit, sweeping their lights high into the air, their unity a powerful counter against the past. Cheers erupted as they stood tall, a connected embrace of hope spreading through the gathering. Madeline turned, heart racing with exhilaration and relief. They had faced their darkness, and through each other, they had emerged triumphant. Eliza hugged her tightly, tears of joy spilling down her cheeks. You did it, Madeline. Truth has set us free. The air was electric with emotion. Collective relief and disbelief morphing into joyous. Night faded into a soft dawn. Each villager grasped their torch, a reminder that they would always hold the light together. Madeline gazed out at the faces that had once been twisted in fear, now gleaming with resolve. This is just the beginning, she vowed, a promise echoing in her heart. Let us celebrate our unity, create a world where truth conquers shadows. With that, the first light of dawn crept into the scene. Hope glimmered like a promise on the horizon as the remnants of the chorus of shadows faded into the past, leaving behind only the flame of courage that each villager would carry forward into a brighter tomorrow. And so, they walked hand in hand into the dawn, brave, united, and unyielding. Now, this is the moment to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Madeline's journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let us keep the light shining together.